Alright, so if you are new to this channel, again, my name is DaShanna. This is my husband, BJ. We recently bought our house in California. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but that's a huge thing.
Y'all. We almost moved.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Fortitude Fix. I hope you're well. My name is DaShanna, and in today's video, we are talking about something that is super exciting. I have my husband, BJ, here with us today.
I was waiting to see how long it was going to take her to introduce me. I almost jumped in there a minute, but we good.
Oh my gosh, you know I have to do my intro first. So anyways, we bought a house.
Wild.
Right? Like, okay, so it's been a little bit, but we promised to kind of sit down and film this video and share some of our journey on this channel. So this is going to be the first video of a few that we kind of talk about our experience. In this video, we are going to kind of talk briefly about the timeline of things, how quickly things moved, and we're gonna give our tips for buying a home. Yeah.
Nice. And these are in no particular order, of course, just some random things that we thought about during the process and we wish we would have known beforehand.
For sure.
By the way, y'all, I'm excited to be out of our apartment, having space for little Nova to run around. It is amazing. So definitely a huge blessing. We made it.
We made it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. We moved into this house, so we closed in March and we moved in like 2 days later. As we are filming this right now, it is in real time, so this is, you know, what, mid-May, late May. And so we've been here for a little bit, but the timeline, so we went to go look at houses for the very first time ever in February. I think it was like Sunday, February 16th or something, whatever, I'll put the date here later. But so from that day, and this was the very first house that we saw on that day, so from that day to the day we closed, it was a total of like 26 days.
And at that point, when we were looking for houses, by the way, I found this house, the first, really excited about that. I put the legwork in, y'all. But when we started looking for houses, we really didn't have much in stone or much set in place, right? We didn't have our loan finalized. We shouldn't have our loan finalized, right? But there is some idea or understanding of how much our loan should get approved for.
I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this.
Yeah. Shouldn't you know how much you can get approved for a loan before you start looking? Because I remember he was writing our loan.
Get pre-approved?
Yeah, I think getting pre-approved beforehand, because we didn't even get pre-approved. Like, we found the house, they were like, yo, we're closing, you know, we're getting ready to end this day, and he had to rush to get everything fixed. Is that right? Or am I making it up? For like, the underwriter, we didn't have the underwrite something.
No, so we were pre-approved, but we were working with a lender who often gets you pre-approved as well as underwritten at the same time, so that when you go in to make an offer, you can just, you look better as like a candidate. So the first thing we did was to look into getting pre-approved, and there was kind of some back and forth about like how much we wanted to be pre-approved for, or like how much we are eligible. So like we were like, well, if we get a pre-approved for this amount, this is what the numbers would look like, or this amount, this is what the numbers would look like. So I remember we kind of went back and forth with our lender a little bit. That's a whole different story, the pre-approval experience.
Yeah, I've got a sidetrack, so we'll...
Wow, like you reminded me of all the crap we went through. Anyway, so but yes, when we came to see this house, we were kind of sort of pre-approved. We were like talking about the conversation with our lender, but we didn't have like the letter in hand at that point. So.
There's a lot of things we didn't have in hand. And I remember DaShanna, she watches all of her realty shows and house buying and homeowners and buying houses in the Ozarks, whatever. And I was like, you know, I guess we can start going to look for houses now, but we don't really have everything we need, right? She was go, go, go. I was like break, break, break. Calls for some interesting situations, but needless to say, the process was extremely fast, which I guess now looking back on it was a good thing for us.
Yeah. All right, so if you are new to this channel, again, my name is DaShanna. This is my husband, BJ. We recently bought our house in California. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but that's a
almost
huge thing.
Moved, y'all. We almost moved. Texas, Arizona.
I don't know about Texas. But yeah, so a lot of these kinds of videos are out there, but I remember specifically looking for like buying in California because it's a whole different situation. So yeah, let's get into some of our tips. The first tip that we have for you all is to save. So save as much as you possibly can. So if you know that you want to eventually become homeowners and purchase property, save as much as you can in like liquid cash that you have in an account that you can access, because you're gonna need it. So whether it's for the down payment, for any like extra contingencies that come up later, closing costs, like these are not things that are just like all encompassing. There's gonna be like itemized lists of this, that you owe, the beginning, at the end, in the middle. So like just have as much money as possible.
And I think it's important to, when people start talking about how much money you're gonna put down, realizing that on top of that is closing costs, right? I'm not really familiar with the house buying process, a little bit more so now. But if you say, yo, I have $30,000 to put down, you are going to be paying more than that in cash when it comes to the closing process, right? If you're going to put $30,000 down. So having the money you want to put down and having more than that for those closing costs. And I would also say, many people may not want to do this, but really being aware of your options. We have, some people may have a 401k or things along those lines that they could potentially take a loan out from, right? There's other first-time homeowner buyer processes that kind of help you with that down payment and having that liquid cash on hand. You might not want to do it, but being aware of your options is very important, just in case something happens, knowing what's available for you. So knowing all of those options and having that money saved.
So we both have 401ks like through our job, and they both work a little bit differently. And so I know for me, based on the amount that I have in there, I would only be able to use X amount, which wasn't the full amount. And so for him it was the same, but I think the amount was higher for him, and like there were just other kind of rules that just made more sense. But yeah, definitely like call and like get your information, because just because you have X amount of dollars in your 401k doesn't mean that you can like use all of that money or take all of that money out. So just, you know your options, like you said. Another thing that we want to share is knowing your budget. So like what took me by surprise was, even when we were calling or like looking to get pre-approved in the very beginning, one of the questions that we were asked was like, well, how much can you afford, or how much of a mortgage are you looking for? How much is the home that you're looking at? And we're like, I don't know, like we thought this was, step number one. So I guess that would be like step 0 is really like looking at your financials in a budget, figuring out if you pay rent now, like how much more could you potentially pay and still, take care of your 4 walls, your food, your, mortgage, whatever else, your utilities, etc., and figuring that out for yourself, because it's going to be different for everybody depending on where you live, where you're looking to move, how much money you make at your current job, if there's 2 incomes, 1 income that you're working with. So yeah, just know your budget for sure.
Yeah, and that's something we did, we've been doing for a long time, even before we got not before we got married. Oh, when we were engaged, I think it was.
Together, we were budgeting separately.
Oh yeah,
before we got married, but
when we combined our incomes or whatnot, it's just having a budget. Like 2 times a month, we will literally look at how much money we have coming in, list out all of our expenses, know how much extra we have, know how much we're going to be investing, knowing how much we're putting into our baby's college fund. Everything is listed out, and we zero out every pay period. Mm-hmm. So having multiple months of this, we knew, maybe in May it might be a little bit different. Maybe in July things might be different. Oh, we know the thing that you got to pay for your car to drive it around. What is that called every year?
Your registration.
Registration, right? When that's coming. So just being aware and tracking your expenses is really important to let you know what you have available that's extra.
Just to piggyback, it's not a budgeting video, but just to piggyback on what he said, one of the things that I do on an annual basis is create an annual budget. So I look at every single month of the year, just so we could get that information, because like we have Amazon Prime and that comes out once a year. We have our registration our registration that comes out once a year. So like those things that you kind of forget about, like we remember them because of that. So anyway, zero-based budget that we do it twice a month and we zero it out, which is really helpful. Another tip is be prepared to move quickly. Real estate waits for no one. Once it's go time, it is go time. Things happen very quickly for us, and it was kind of a whirlwind. I know he has a lot of thoughts on that.
And it's so funny. We got into little arguments around this time trying to figure things out. And I was not in the space of wanting to go look for houses because we didn't have everything that we needed immediately. We knew it was coming in, but we didn't have what we needed immediately. And my brain is like, you know, let's wait until we have everything we need. So if we do find something we have, we're able to go. But she was like, nah, we're about to go and we're going to start looking. And I was like, okay, just praying, Lord Jesus, help us out. So we ended up, the first place that we saw, we fell in love with, right? The first place, and I immediately was thinking, oh Lord, this is about to be a rough next couple of weeks. So definitely have what you need before you start looking. If that's, I would recommend it. Everybody has different levels of risks that they're willing to take. Mine are very low, so I would say be ready to go, but have what you need before you start if you're a low risk person like myself. Still got some gray hairs from that process.
It was interesting. This is just like a random thing that kind of came up, but we were talking to some friends who also had purchased a couple of months to a year or so before we did, and the stories were varied, right? Like the experiences that they had. But one thing that I learned is that you might be able to lock in your interest rate. So for us, like, we were asking, like, what's the interest rate going to be? What does that look like? So we can get like the final numbers or calculate them at least. But we were kind of told, well, it depends on when you get to this point in the process is when we'll figure out what your rate is. And so I know another friend of mine was able to lock in their mortgage rate kind of while they were still in the process of things, so that the mortgage rate didn't jump up substantially. So even from the time we started, even though it was 26 days, but the time we started to the time we closed, there was a change in the mortgage rate and it went up for us. So
and as you
something to inquire about.
And if you all are looking at the housing market and just how the world is doing right now, the mortgage interest rate continues to skyrocket. So it's jumping up. So we locked it in well before the craziness of what's going on right now. So we're happy about that for sure.
Probably want to put this more toward the top, but again, these are in no particular order. But just remembering that your realtor works for you, your lender works for you. If there's any point in the process where you don't think that it's a good fit, you feel as if they are not kind of on your side, then you have the ability to move on and find a different realtor or find a different lender that you feel comfortable with. Don't feel pressured to stay with whoever, the person is that you chose or that was recommended to you if you don't feel that it's right.
After starting to save, this is probably the second thing I would recommend doing, just because you really want to get to know your realtor well, and knowing if you have a good fit with them, if they're going to be responsive, right? And they can even give you insight and tips. We found our realtor a little bit later in the process than what we're recommending here. And the tips and the advice that she was able to give us was amazing, and things that we wish we would have known beforehand. So the sooner that you start finding a realtor, the sooner you start shopping around and having those conversations. If you don't know what to do, a realtor can definitely help you. And there's some creepy realtors out there, so it's important to find a good one. Talk to at least more than one. It can never hurt you to do so, because you can always get better for sure.
Yeah, and also ask questions. Make sure they're familiar with the area that you're looking to buy in, if they've had experience, because again, each kind of real estate hub or market in each city or each part of a city could be very different. So that's a good piece of advice for sure.
Yeah.
I guess the next kind of leads into the next one is to be open to moving to different locations. So you might be thinking about purchasing close to where you live now, but it's also a good idea to perhaps open your mind to different cities, different places that are maybe geographically where you didn't expect.
And she's gonna try to gloss over this a little bit, y'all. The city we live in right now, she was super extremely anti being out here. It was before we started looking, it was no way, I want to be here, I want to be there. And I'm like, all right, bet. Now we're out here living, and I remember, and I remind her about it all the time because she was super.
I was. One, because it's kind of a little bit far. Two, it is a whole different like climate out here. Like it. Growing up in the city, I was born and raised in San Francisco, and just like it's just different. So moving outward is like, whoa, okay. And then also I was freaking out about being super far away from my mom at the time too. I didn't want to like be super far away. So
and she says we're super far. We're really not that much further. Like there are some cities that we frequent that we can get there faster than we could from our previous apartment. We're very far from our previous apartment for sure, but we're not that far from other spaces in all honesty.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we have here on our list is to make sure to ask all of your questions. So ask your questions of your realtor, of your lender. If they are good at their job, they will provide their email address, their phone number, all that stuff. We were texting back and forth in a group chat with our realtor, and our lender was able to kind of see our email come through, give us a call, tell us that he was free to talk then. Just having like open communication with the folks that you are working with is very, very important. So ask all your questions, no matter how big or how small. Honestly, even getting a team together that is familiar with the first time home buyer process, because there's things that you may not even know to ask, but they potentially know that, hey, they're first time home buyers, so these are things that I want to make sure that they know. That would be probably a really good idea as well.
For sure. I have extra credit, actually, something we didn't talk about, but extra credit. And I might sound dumb for saying this, right? I know DaShanna was the queen of realty because of the show she watches. When you sign for your house, Amazing Awesome Day, know you're signing 5,087 pages of documents. So I thought we were going to walk in Starbucks, sign the paper, and get out of there. Nah, it was a long process. It was
like this thick.
Nova was sitting here grabbing coffee beans off of Starbucks, throwing it around and everything. But just know that it's a long process. Bring your snacks and get ready for that. But at the end of the day, in all honesty, I still walk around. I think we've been here for 2.5 months. I walk around our place and I'm just excited and I'm happy and I'm blessed. I already know, I feel blessed. I already know where our Christmas tree is gonna go, y'all. DaShanna has no idea how large it's gonna be. It's gonna be sick. But at the end of the day, it was stressful, but I'm so happy, and it worked out very well for us.
Yeah, cool.
Sweet.
How do we feel?
Feel great. How much are you gonna pay me for this video?
I just gave birth to your almost 10-pound child, okay? So there you go. All right. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. We appreciate it. If you made it this far, go ahead.
Lying on my baby like that.
Okay, she was 2 ounces away from 10 pounds, okay? All right. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up. If you were super excited to hear from BJ again, he's been on the channel a couple of times, but he's always really fun to film with. Then yeah, make sure you stick around for the next video in the series. We have an empty house tour coming. We have our like house hunting video where we looked at like 3 different houses, I think. And yeah, I mean, if there's any other videos that y'all are interested in seeing that have to do with like the home, I'm sure I'm going to be doing some cleaning and organizing type videos and all of that. But yeah, it's been a lot. I was what, 7 months pregnant when we moved?
Yeah. And
I recently just gave birth to our daughter, so I'm still trying to figure out like which way is up. I look forward to making more interesting and fun videos and content around kind of the home process and even like being a little bit of a homemaker. All right, we're gonna go ahead and end the video here. Thanks again, and I will see you in our next video. As always, remember to fill your cup. Bye.